Or you're somebody who's become a leader in this incredibly exciting category of enterprise AI. It's an area where you can improve the way businesses function, create AI to help them optimize processes, and a lot of what they do make it more automated. And it takes AI and makes it more personalized for companies. So I'm excited to have you here and get into your story and what you're building.
Thank you for having me, Ben. Great to be here.
Awesome. So, Ori, just kind of going back in your journey, when did you get interested in building companies and building in the technology space in general? And how did you land on this idea?
Yeah, in a way, it's since I remember myself, uh, I I started my entrepreneurship journey when I was very young, like I was, I don't know, 12, 13-year old, and I was fixing computers and you know, it's the um, same old kind of PC boy that is playing with computers and programming and so forth. So I got my first computer when I was about 5-year old. And so ever since I've been very passionate about technology and what it can do, and it always fascinated me. Um, when I was about 16, I opened like I would call it. I'm even ashamed calling it a company, but we've we've kind of we've opened this team that helped companies back then, building websites and all sorts of applications. It was long time ago, over, I don't know, about 25 years ago or so. So, um, I started back then, and I was, passionate about how technology works and in the context of business and how you can empower other businesses. And so it really started at a young age, but it evolved ever since.
Mhm. Were you thinking about AI, like when you were younger at all, or like the potentials of AI? I mean, obviously now it's really taken off to a different point, but it's been around for some time. How did you get interested in AI specifically?
Yeah, so I was a gamer,
Mm,
um, you know, um, and knew something about programming when I was like 6 or 7-year old. And I actually had this vision that you would be able to interact with computers, and you'll be able to speak with them,
mhm.
in some of these games. It's something actually that I remember pretty clearly, that I would say that, oh, that would be very cool to have, a way to interact with computers, but just by telling them what I want to happen or what I want them to execute. And, of course, back then it seems like completely science fiction. And so that was my, I would say, kind of first thinking around AI, or more generally, more broadly, human computer interaction. Um, but I would say that the beginning of my journey professionally in AI started in my previous company, when we build machine learning models for predicting wireless networks performance. So I've seen the predictive power of these
Mm,
models and how useful they can be. Of course, it's very different than the type of AI we have today, but it gave me that intuition that there's a very powerful technology here, and that we're kind of in the beginning of a new age. That was, back in 2012, 2013, when we kind of practiced that area. Um, and really, when I, went deep into this area, was when I started this company with my two co-founders. And so both of them are longtime AI professors. Yoav Shoam, who was a professor at Stanford for many years, and
mm.
he actually ran the AI lab there. And Professor Amnon Shashua was a known
Yeah.
professor here at Hebrew U. So um, that's where I actually started kind of learning more deeply about AI in the space, also kind of what's considered the classic AI and more modern day AI. It wasn't back when we started the company. The term LLM wasn't the thing yet, but the space have evolved, and here we are.
Yeah. How did you meet these professors? And what did it take to convince them to do something like this? I mean, Amnon has an incredible track record. How did you get him involved?
Yeah, so I first introduced to Yoav actually by my wife, back then my girlfriend, now my wife. It's a funny story by itself, but it's actually, it's a good segue to tell that sometimes randomness is underappreciated. I mean, you can't anticipate these things, but I sold my previous company, and then after a few years, I was in that journey. Um, I decided with myself that I wanted to start a new company, and I knew it's going to be an AI company. I had several ideas for AI applications, but then I met Yoav, and he and his family was just, they got back from the Bay Area to Israel. That's how we kind of got connected, and he also had this. Very visionary idea of where AI is heading and what it means, AI for the 21st century. That's the name
Mhm.
AI21. And so we've kind of um, we went back and forth, and we we had a very conceptual, abstract, directional idea. We haven't had, any business plan or understanding what the product is and what is going to be the commercial manifestation and so forth. So we just had this kind of deep belief of, where this space is heading, and then shortly after, we met with Amnon, and he was very excited about the vision. It was actually very aligned with his thinking. So then we decided to join forces and start this company.
Mhm. So, Ori, why target enterprises? What did you see as an opportunity with enterprises specifically?
Yeah, it also relates to the journey we've been gone through as a company and also as an industry.
Mhm.
Um, if you think about when we started the company back in 2017, we really put front and center language as the next frontier. And if you think about, AI back in 2017, it was mostly about computer vision and these predictive analytics type of applications. And language was still weak until, of course, Transformer came out and changed the game. And so it was very clear to us that language is the next frontier, and we focused on that. Um, and with that in mind, we also had this understanding that these deep learning statistical, models are necessary conditions. They're not going to go away. And indeed, they've developed so much in the last few years, but they're also not sufficient. So you need to complement them with more structured, more symbolic approach, because not all reasoning needs to, it doesn't make sense to do all reasoning in a neural statistical way. So that was kind of the basic premise of the company, and and so through that journey, because the technology evolved so much back in 2020, where large language models were this they I think the term was coined back then, but it was still in its very early days. I think the strongest model that we had was, GPT-3, and we've also developed our own model called Jurassic One back at the time. um, but there was no enterprise market. I mean, we've discussed with so many enterprises, from healthcare to legal to so many domains, and I mean, they're all understood the potential, but the technology wasn't quite there yet. So there wasn't a market. But at that time, the capabilities were pretty useful for, I would say, basic reading and writing assistance. So you can suddenly not just fix grammar and spelling, you could actually rephrase and rewrite entire sentences and paragraphs, or you can summarize, some sections of documents and so forth. So it became more useful, but it didn't become useful for an enterprise focused product, but more of a general purpose reading and writing assistant product. And that was our first product to market. It was a product called WordTune that
Mm.
um, have received tens of millions of users, and generated a lot of revenue. Um, but throughout this journey, what we've seen is these models are becoming more and more capable, and now unlocking new opportunities on the enterprise side. With that said, they're not enough.
Mhm.
Again, necessary but not sufficient to provide the kind of reliability and trustworthiness and control that enterprises need. So that's when, after ChatGPT moment, when it happened back in 2022, we said, okay, now's the time to actually to focus back on the enterprise, because that's where we deeply believe that there's a huge opportunity to create value.
Mhm. So what goes into making like a your own model? I mean, how complicated is that? And how do you gain a competitive advantage in that area? I mean, it just seems like it's fairly complicated, fairly resource intensive, but it's now become the core of all of this.
Yeah, I would say, again, things are changing pretty swiftly in this industry. Um, um, so actually, I think it's important to kind of specify the scaling laws, because they're very much related to, the type of investment you need to put in to make these models. And uh, I, I I would say that, we have basically three scaling laws at the moment. We have the pre-training,
Yeah.
um, that in some ways we've started to run out of tokens, and I think we start to see diminishing returns on that law. We have post-training, um, still more room to grow, with all these RL, modern RL techniques, and so you can essentially improve the model's behavior on a variety, very diverse but specific tasks. Um, and then you have the third scaling law of test time compute or inference time compute, right? So the more you invest in inference time, the better likelihood for you to succeed in, or the quality that you get is higher. So you have these free scaling laws, and on one hand, and people are pushing. I mean, when you speak about the big firms like the OpenAIs and Anthropics and the big co's, so they have the advantage of being able to scale very aggressively. Um, so scale is meaningful, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
That's something to consider. And I think there's a kind of contradicting trend that we'll still see. Um, and that would be, how do you create smaller yet very powerful models?
Mm.
And we see that trend again and again, right? We see new algorithmic techniques that actually make things much more efficient, and thus kind of dropping the cost, and thus dropping the investment size that's required for training these models. So things are very dynamic in model training and service land, but of course there's advantages for companies that can scale, but there is room for a lot of this algorithmic innovation. And one example would be our Jamba model that we released last year. It's a new architecture. It's the first time that there's a commercial grade model that uses a new architecture that is non-pure transformer. Um, and that's really exciting because it unlocks a lot of opportunities, and you can suddenly um, process very long sequences of what people call long context. Um, and context window is a very important concept for these language models. But you could suddenly do it with this new architecture. It's a much lower cost in dramatic, like 5, 6 times lower the cost than a pure transformer model. So I think we'll see more and more of this innovation, both on the architectural side and algorithmic training side, and so that trend of dropping, taking costs down for both training and inference, I think will continue, and we'll see it driven by a lot of algorithmic innovation.
I mean, some of that innovation I think is going to be done. I mean, with you guys specifically around enterprise in mind. So, are you thinking about making like new models for enterprise and developing like what and what does that kind of even look like?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. So we go after enterprises, we go after mission critical workflows.
Mhm.
So there are a lot of enterprise use cases that you actually can get today with current technology. So either you're doing some creative stuff or some automating mundane like data entry and so data cleaning and so on and so forth. You'll see many of these workflows, and some of them are actually in production. But the mission critical workflows, safety and regulation related workflows, or financial decision workflows, or underwriting, um, all of these, the cost of doing error is just incredibly high. And you can't treat these algorithms as black boxes. You have to have explanation, like every decision point for these highly regulated industries. Every decision point has to be explained, so to speak. So that's our focus, and then we design our models, our LLMs, to be both efficient but also compatible with these types of workflows. But it's not just merely the models; it's actually entire AI system, an
Mm.
orchestration system that uses our models and others as well to get the level of reliability and the kind of guarantees that these enterprises are expecting today. It's so this focus, um, it's on, I would say, some of the more slowing moving industry and kind of use cases, but they're tremendously valuable. And over time, there's just incredible amount of innovation and value to create.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I think as you mentioned, like these more specified approaches are going to be where the bigger opportunities are because you're going to have these general models that just cover so much, and then it's just about finding those use cases. I'm sure you already have a lot of them in mind of just where to go after for enterprises.
Yes, exactly, exactly, and I think. So what people don't realize, I mean, these general models, they're very powerful and they
Yeah.
are useful, but they're still very general purpose. They're not adapted to your specific environment, and every enterprise is like a universe of its own. It has its own rules. It's almost its own physics, and that's why I think we're in the context of um, enterprise AI. I think we're going to transition from the discussion around AGI and superintelligence and so forth to what I like to call organizational intelligence.
Mm.
So you'll have models and systems that are aware of the environment, the different tools, the different data sources, the different processes, and can then act effectively within that context. And I think a great analogy for that is think that you bring a genius PhD, being, um, bring him to a company on day one and expect him to, perform in all the tasks perfectly. It's just it doesn't happen that way, right? You learn the culture, you learn who you need to talk with, you learn what data and what is the meaning of that data. You learn how things are being done. So I think the same process um, will be for AI systems and these agentic systems. There will be some almost like training, so to speak, phase, and then there will be continual learning where the agent is not just automating task and it resets itself every time there's a transaction or interaction, but it continuously evolves and learns like an employee will, right? It will learn how to better perform next time and so on and so forth. So I think that that's where the winds are shifting in terms of what kind of systems we need to have in place to support enterprise use cases.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, do you see also AI building some of these use cases itself out? Like, we're seeing AI tools that are creating code, with Cursor, and there's just other AI making tools itself. Like, do you think AI is going to be helpful in even identifying these niches and building out these?
Yeah, I'll even be more specific. I
Mhm.
think you have AI systems that are capable to break down complex tasks,
Yeah.
right? Tasks that are kind of longer, right? They take some quite time to accomplish, at least for a human being. So and then you'll have these, some of these subtasks that require some more um, they require some more um, evidence or require some more data-driven approach to
Mhm.
solve, and then the system will decide, hey, I need to train like a model to solve that particular task just to get more a level of confidence, and it will actually go and train a model. Will try to maybe generate some synthetic data. It will have some objective function, and using that, it will train a very specified model to try and solve a specific problem. So I can imagine that that's kind of a version of what you mentioned as
Yeah.
AI kind of generating another AI model. That's how I think it can be applied in the context of enterprise AI system, but
Mhm.
it will take time. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not there yet.
Or what are your goals right now? What's your big picture vision for the company?
Right. So our vision is to help enterprises go to production. We see just a huge gap between the
Mhm.
experimentation and pilots, and um, I speak with CIOs on a daily basis, and I see the projects, and some of the projects are there's some questions mark about what's the ROI and how actually valuable they are. And some of the projects pretty clear that there is value there, but they need to reach a certain level of accuracy and reliability, and that's a challenge for a lot of organizations. So our mission is to build the best tools in the world to help these enterprises to get reliable systems and to put them in production. So my focus is um, to help enterprise customers go with these sporadic experiments to massive deployment. I mean, I'm expecting, and I think that's everybody's wondering, why aren't we seeing this explosion? Why every company in the world has hundreds, if not thousands, of these agents in every department deployed deeply? That's um, and there are many reasons for that, but we fundamentally believe there's a reliability gap that needs to be bridged, and there should be like a new way for builders to build um, these more trustworthy agentic systems, and that's what we aim to accomplish. So our success would look like if we take um, you know, enterprise companies by, in 2026, and we'll help them accelerate and deploy hundreds, if not thousands, of agents in their companies.
Well, Ori, that was all the questions that I had. I appreciate you taking the time and doing this. I think you've identified a really good niche in this category. I mean, there's so much around general AI and the benefits of that, but the specifics are where there's a lot of potential that's just not focused on as much. And you've got a really great niche here. And I love the vision of how you can target specific problems within workflow with these companies and just optimize them so much more. And I'm excited to see where you'll go with it next. And I appreciate you taking the time and doing this.
Thank you, Ben. It's been great to be here. And thanks again.